I'm Jeff Allen Wolf. This is A World Gone Mad. For me, I'm doing this episode on Wednesday. For you, when you're listening to it, could be a different day. A lot of thoughts jumping through my head this episode. So, here we go. You know, some days the stress level, at least for me and my family, is through the roof. Today is one of those days. I'm stepping back and I'm looking at the big overview on what's happening right now. Damn, everything is so messed up. You could feel it. For me, today is one of those heavy, heavy days. Now, my big takeaway, and I'll state the obvious to you, Donald Trump, just like the famous movie title says, you know, this is a famous movie title, you'll understand when I say it. Donald Trump wants to control everything, everywhere, all at once. No matter what it is, Trump wants to control it. Trump wants to dictate his terms. Trump wants to put his name on everything. Trump wants to play with things until they break, and then move on to his next toy. Trump, the great deal maker, the so-called stable genius, is just a master manipulator and charlatan. And of course, the citizens, the intelligent citizens of America, are fed up with all of this. Now, I'm not saying anything that any of you disagree with. I'm clearly stating the obvious. Now, if this was the local schoolyard bully, that would be terrible enough. But this is a grown-ass adult. The President of the United States acting like this. And keeping it real, he's a complete embarrassment to our country. Earlier today, I was watching the Mark Wayne Mullen confirmation hearing. I also listened to the hearing on Iran and intelligence. And as I'm listening to these two hearings, listening to the different people speaking, the more I watch these hearings, the clearer it becomes, as a point of emphasis, what a bunch of incompetent people Trump has in charge of all the departments. Kash Bug-Eyed Patel leading the honorable and historic FBI. And Patel is just so wrong for this job on so many levels. Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence. Should I say it? Director of National Intelligence. That would be fitting if Tulsi had any intelligence at all on how to run her own life, let alone the DNI. And I'm not here to bash people or to insult people, even though it's coming across that way for me. That's something that I normally don't do. But Wolfpack, this is a group of individuals that are so incompetent. And if these were smaller departments that they were running, that would be lousy enough. But they're running major departments in the government. You know, I long for the day, and I'm sure you, the listener, do as well, when we have competent people back in these roles. And Wolfpack, here's another crazy thing that happened during these hearings today. Senator Mark Kelly brought up the following. He shared a fundraising email from Trump that was released 6 days ago, addressed to potential donors, and that email stated the following. As a national security briefing member, you'll receive my private national security briefings. Think about this, everyone. Snopes, People Magazine, USA Today all independently verified the existence of these fundraising emails. Trump basically declares, you pay me and I'll tell you secret private stuff. Now, I'm making this perfectly clear. I agree with Senator Kelly. We're not saying these briefings actually took place. What we're saying is that this email was sent to potential donors, a clear violation of the Hatch Act. The bottom line is this is ridiculous. Trump has stated many different situations before. You pay me, and I'll reward you with the following fill in the blank. I can be bought. When I give you my commentary, obviously I'm preaching to the choir. You, the listening audience, agrees with me, I would assume, on the major issues. We need to get rid of this circus. We need to get rid of these incompetent clowns. Get rid of the ringmaster, Donald Trump, not illegally, but by legal means. Get rid of this whole cornucopia of crap. Let me talk about journalistic free speech. Because something's happening in the media right now that people are either brushing off or completely misunderstanding. I'm talking about MSNBC. Now, this isn't just a few shows there that are getting moved around or some routine programming change. The network's being restructured, reshaped, repositioned, and that has real consequences for what millions of people see and hear every single day. When you change the structure, you change the incentives. When you change the incentives, you change the outcome. Now put that into the political reality we're living in today. You've got Donald Trump, who spent years attacking the press, calling it fake, calling it corrupt, trying to discredit anything that challenges him from the media. That's not random. It's not just noise. That's pressure being applied to weaken journalism that pushes back against Trump and the people aligned with him. Now, at the same time, you've got massive corporate influence over media, fewer owners controlling more platforms, and more billionaires shaping what gets seen and what doesn't. Now, when you combine that kind of ownership power with that kind of political pressure, you end up with an environment where journalism, especially from the Democratic side, can be squeezed, reshaped, and reduced over time. This is where people get it wrong. Nobody needs to walk in and announce a takeover. Nobody needs to fire everyone or flip a switch overnight. That's not how influence works in the real world. It works through incentives, access, relationships, and pressure that builds over time. It works through what gets encouraged, what gets rewarded, and what quietly gets avoided. It shows up in tone, in framing, in what news stories lead, and what news stories get buried. It shows up in which voices are elevated and which ones start to fade. That's how you sideline perspectives without ever admitting you're doing it. It happens gradually, it happens quietly, and by the time people notice it, the shift's already taken place. You don't have to ban voices to reduce their impact. You give them less time, less visibility, less presence. You move them around, reduce their exposure, shift the lineup, and over time the effect's the same. One day people look around and realize that certain perspectives, especially the ones pushing back, just aren't showing up the way they used to. No announcement, no headline, no warning, just a gradual shift that most people don't notice until it's already happened. And look at what's already happening. Shows are being reshuffled on MSNBC. Hosts are being moved. Some voices are disappearing from the lineup. The structure underneath the network's changing. It's doing it in real time. That's not meaningless. That's not random. That's how direction changes without ever being formally announced. And while all of that's happening, people are still stuck arguing about bias like it's a game. Left versus right, pick your team, yell about it online, call it a day. That's surface level thinking. The real issue is control. Who owns the platform? Who sets the priorities? Who decides what gets amplified to millions of people? And what quietly disappears before it ever gains traction? Because once you understand that, the whole conversation changes. You're not just watching the news. You're watching a system that's being shaped in real time by power, money, and influence. And if you think that doesn't affect what you're being told about the world, then you're not paying attention. And where this goes from here, people should be watching very closely, because once this kind of shift starts, it rarely stops where people think it will. And don't kid yourself about what this turns into if it keeps going. This is how you slowly choke off opposition without ever admitting you're doing it. You don't need to shut anything down. You don't need to ban anyone. You just tilt the field over and over again until the only voices breaking through are the ones that don't threaten power. And if you think that's not happening, if you think this is all just coincidence, then you're not watching closely enough. Because once that line gets crossed, you're not dealing with journalism anymore. You're dealing with messaging. And at that point, the game's already over. Question for all the Wolfpack out there listening. Have you been to a No Kings rally? Did you go to any of the first two? What was your experience like? Was it mostly peaceful? Do you feel those rallies accomplished anything personally? If you went before, are you going to the next one? The next No Kings March protest day is Saturday, March 28, 2026. It's a nationwide coordinated day of protests happening across the U.S., with thousands of events planned in cities and towns nationwide. This is the third major No Kings mobilization following the earlier large protests in 2025. Are any of you, the listeners, going? Instead of me reading your mind, how about sending me your comments on this at wolfpacktalks@gmail.com. I'd like to hear your experiences if you've gone before and if you're going to the new one. So today's episode, I just wanted to give you a couple of thoughts from random topics. If it felt like a big jumble of ideas or comments, it was, because that's how our country feels right now. We need to, on a daily basis, stay vigilant. Keep pushing back against what the other side is trying to do to our democracy. Once again, you can reach me at wolfpacktalks@gmail.com. I keep asking all of you. Maybe a few of you will surprise me. Actually email me with your comments and thoughts about where you are right now with what's happening in America today. I'm standing firm, pushing through. I would encourage all of you to do the same. I'm Jeff Allen Wolf. This is A World Gone Mad. I'll be back Friday. Until then, I urge you, the Wolfpack, remain skeptical. Question everything. Please don't lose hope. And most of all, stay alert.